Okay, let me get started. The podium machine is not starting up, so I'm using my laptop. So some of the projection, I'll try to manage the font as we go along so that you can see. As far as the project, there were 4 groups that didn't update me. Group 8, Danny, Justin, Drew. Group 11, Rachel, Andrew. Group 12, Corey, Matt, Mackenzie. And Group 14, Paul, Robert. You didn't send me an update yesterday. You're supposed to know that, right? Yeah. Okay. Anyways, if you don't send me an update, I basically mark it. At this point, I pretty much know exactly what each group is doing or not doing, and if you're not doing, I mark it down. The part of it is I expect you to keep progressing and even if you're falling short, to try it out. And some of the groups do that, others don't. As far as unit testing, some of you have not tried it out. The group that, I think, as far as unit testing, the group that has gone the farthest is Group 4. And I'll discuss that a little bit next class, where they have explored some interesting combinations of testing. That's one of the things that which I feel I should have done or pushed for more is unit testing, and testing in general. Sometimes I feel I should accept the blame. Other times I want to pass it on to the college and the department and whoever else who keeps on preventing. I've been, for the past nearly 10 years, I've been telling them we cannot compress all our 353, 450, and 452 into basically 2 semesters in the final in your senior year. It doesn't help anyone, actually. It doesn't help the students. It doesn't help the recruiters or placement and everything else, and including what we are trying to accomplish. So anyways, I will get back to some testing next class, and I will use Group 4, some of what they have done. But we only have, I want to again set up some meetings today. The 4 groups that didn't even bother to email me, I don't even want to meet you. You figure out. And as I said, it will significantly reduce your grade, and you deserve it. So that's how it is. I don't know if I even want to meet with you. You figure out solutions that's not working. Understand that, right? And I'm assuming you understand it too. If you're not doing it, you won't get a grade. And then if you get a very poor grade, you have to look at yourself, right? That's how things work. And you're going out into the so-called real world very soon. You are responsible, right? You know what you're responsible for. If you don't do it, you pay a price for it. And similarly, Dave, Sam, your group is giving so many excuses, right? So I don't want excuses. I want you to do stuff. So that's the bottom line. I want you to, like one of the groups that particularly like is Group 15, Carter, Vince, every time you do something interesting, apply whatever it is. That's the attitude approach that you try it, apply it, but if you don't do it, there's no value in whatever you're trying to do. And similarly, Group 14, I've just been hearing too many excuses. You have to do better. Okay. We have to do better in the next level of 9 days or 10 days. Okay, I'll pass this around. with the 4 groups that didn't send me an update, you'll have to find a way to, you have to send me an update before I'm willing to meet with you. And I need to know what you're doing or not doing. Okay, I'll pass this around. I'm available pretty much. I'll be at a meeting from 12:45 to 2. Then I've given the time, so let's see. There are some groups where I've said I want to meet for about 10 to 15 minutes. I will follow up again on Thursday if you have questions. There are four groups where I've said I'd like to meet 10 to 15 minutes just to make sure. Those are, let's see, group. The other groups, I want to meet between 20 to 30 minutes. As far as the times today, the times I won't be able to meet are 11:30 to, I'll try to do this very quickly, 11:30 to 11:45, 12:40 to 2, 4 to 6. These are the times I won't be able to meet. There's one group that asked to meet at 7, so I won't be able to meet. I'm going to give about 30 minutes, so anyways, other than that, I will be around, 1 to 9 p.m. in the accounting conference room, that's room 335. Prior to that, so in the 11:45 to 12:45. If you want to meet in that time, it's room 317. That's my office. So up to 9, if you find that, so hopefully you will fit in during one of these slots. So these are the time slots that I cannot meet. And there is one group I'm meeting at this time. So anything outside of that, just find a slot for the 4 groups that didn't update me. As I said, since you are on the negative side of the scale, you do something to prove to me that you can move to the positive side. Otherwise, I'm going to continue reducing points. And it's in your hands. You can choose to continue getting negative points, or you can try to do something in the last few days. But it's up to you. I'm not. If you don't care, I'm not going to care about you. And so the 4 groups, you have to convince me that there's even value in my spending time with you. Okay, coming back, I'm going to discuss. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on the unit testing, but I'm going to put it to Thursday. And as I said, I will use Group 4's project for some of the discussion, why it can be very helpful. But I will continue using our regular application for most of our discussions. So I'm going to close this down. My expectation is that you have your individual project fully functional. And as of this point, I've not yet decided what I'll use for the final exam. When do you think your final exam is? Pardon? Exactly 2 weeks from today. So you're going to, you have to be prepared for pretty much anything. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to use. It might be this continuing with this project. I might give you a new project. You have to be ready for it. And if I continue with this project, it has to be fully working. So that's why I want you to keep this fully functional going into the final exam. Okay, let me get to the parts where I wanted to discuss. I've been looking at some UI. Let me open up if you're not able to see, let me know. Some of the things on the to-do list, I want you to apply, obviously, the concepts we are discussing, like the dashboard with view component. I said we'll try to use Morris charts. So far, I didn't see anyone applying Morris charts. Anyone did? Okay. I would like to see. I'll try to discuss that next class. I will have follow-up sessions with some, if any group wants to have on Thursday. The last class, what we had discussed was the concept of nested drop-down lists. I want to extend or continue a little bit of discussion on that. One of the things I had mentioned was the point at which the code broke down during my discussion remotely, when both of us were happy not to see each other. So the point at which it broke down, can somebody tell me where it broke down? When? The list was not populating. So what caused it to not populate? Yeah.
The slash at the end of
the select, yeah, that's what Drew pointed out. The slash at the end of it. So you can. There are two ways of closing HTML elements. One is the slash inside. The other is the closing element. Now with the select, and this is, I'm assuming it's a, well, it should. It's an idiosyncrasy or a problem with .NET. So if you close it here, it basically doesn't recognize anything else that follows. Okay, so it breaks not only the drop-down list, but breaks everything that follows it, which is quite ridiculous, because if it's allowing you to close it here, it shouldn't really cause that much to fail. So anyways, and I mentioned it in the course of the discussion, that this is one of the reasons that I'm not a huge fan of the UI layer, because it's harder to reason through it logically. The other layers, working with the model, with the business logic, with the data layer, there is much more logic, more consistency. The UI layer tends to be more patched up, and the points of failure are less predictable, at least in my experience. Okay, so that's the thing. That's the fix for it. Hopefully, most of you have it working. The parts that I wanted to move on to, there are one part was regarding the JavaScript. So the writing of the JavaScript itself, the code. This, by the way, it's not pure JavaScript. What else does this entail or involve? There is Ajax, but the Ajax is coming from the jQuery, the built-in library. So we are using built-in libraries. So this method that we created, instead of having it all in the CS HTML page, we could actually start creating our own JavaScript library. So one part of it is understanding this combination of using JavaScript with the jQuery library, some of the methods that have been built in. So what are we saying? We are for every one of these the JavaScript programs that we have written so far, we start off with accessing the document, which is the entire web page, and then drilling down into some specific part of it. Here, what are we doing here with the department target? What's the objective here? Okay, whenever so the big picture is whenever the department drop-down value changes, we want to change the courses based off of that. So that's the reason that we are trying to keep track of whenever this department changes. So the best way in JavaScript to keep track, to sort of hone in on a particular object, is to use this ID element. So the ID element is the most reliable way of identifying an object on a page. Okay. Are you able to see it, or should I increase the size here? Okay. Okay. Okay, so basically we are saying that every time this department drop-down list value changes, what are we doing here? We are going to compile a course list. And where does the course list come from? And this is where the AJAX comes in. This is, we are going to communicate with the getCourses method to retrieve courses based off of the user selection. So where is getCourses? It's in the manual department controller. It's going here. And one of the things that you have to ensure when working with JavaScript is we are converting everything into this JSON format, which is essentially a string. It's name value pairs, so that it can recognize and work with it. If you send it as a list, it's not going to be able, JavaScript won't be able to decipher the data that you have sent. Okay. Okay, so it's a get method. The data type is JSON, JavaScript object notation. So hopefully you're getting at least a basic idea of working with JavaScript and jQuery and so on. The associated pieces, jQuery, JavaScript, JSON. Okay, and then what are we doing? Well, if we get the data, initially the list is empty. And then what do we do? With each piece of data, each row that we are getting, what are we? So this is basically saying, this is like doing, when we say dot each, it is basically looping through the data, right? So it's like having a list of values. Whenever you have a list of values, you're going to say each row, take data from each row and do something with it. And what is it that we are doing with each row of data? This is when we say option value. If you go down, if you look at any of your manual drop-down lists, let's see, register, okay. So, register.cs HTML had some manual we had created. When we say manual, it's hard-coded, not coming from the database. So if you look at the hard-coded options, what does it say? Option value something, and value is whatever value gets passed, and the next is the text of whatever is seen by the user. So if you look at this JavaScript, what's it saying? You're setting up the option value to be course ID. This is passed behind the scenes, and what the user sees is the course name. Okay, so can you see how we are building this up? Okay, so what we'll do today is, I don't know, again, we have about an hour. So I want to bring in some concepts of multiple selections of values. I know that some groups, group 6, you want like the coaches to select multiple players, right? So, and then how many groups will, like, this is the UI, as far as the functionality, you can go one row at a time, but as far as the user, sometimes they would like to do multiple selections at the same time, right? That's the convenience part of it. So that's one of the things I want to introduce to you today. And even with this, the current one, like what we have currently, if I were to run this, let me go ahead and run. Okay. Manual department, nested DDL. Okay. So what we are getting here, each time you change your department, this set of courses should change. Now, from here, you are able to select only one value in the course. So let's say you want to allow the user to select multiple of these courses. Let's say it is for some form of, especially if it's course offerings, you might want to assign, the department chair might want to select multiple of them to do some kind of processing beyond. So if you want to have more than one show up, there's a simple way of doing this. So you can go into your nested DDL, and if I scroll up, okay, so where it says select ASP4, if I say you want to allow multiple selections, okay, so if I save this, then I go back to, let's see, if I rerun this, I'll go home, and then I will try to do this. There's the, okay, so what happened? It changed from being a drop-down to becoming a list view, right? And now, does anyone know how I can select multiple values from here? Button? Control, if you use Control Select on Windows, if you use a MacBook, it's Command. So Command. So if I do this, I can select multiple values. Of course, for the user, this might not be as intuitive. you might need to put some, like a label saying that they can select by doing this. Now, and then this gets passed over to the method for processing. What I want to do is to sort of extend this, and I don't know if I'll complete the discussion today. I'll try to, there are a couple of concepts that if I don't complete it, I might have to add another video for you to review. But coming back to, there are a couple of concepts I want to bring in, which I think are both helpful and something that you should know going forward. Well, at least conceptually going forward. Hopefully you'll apply it on your project. So I'm going to close this out. One thing that I can do is the script. Instead of having the script in the same page, what I'm going to do is copy this right here, just within the script tags. So up to this point, okay. So there's an open script and a closed script. So all of the code in between that, I just copied it, control highlighted, copied it. I'll go into my Solution Explorer, and then if you scroll down, let's see, where is my? It's under www.root. You can see that everything that is sort of UI related, CSS standing for Cascading Style Sheets, images. If anyone wants to explore setting up some images, that's probably the place you want to put it. And then you have JS for JavaScript. So I'm going to put this code, I'm going to basically copy it into a separate JavaScript file. I'll right-click on this JS folder, and I'll say Add. So I'm going to add a new item, which is a JavaScript file. So let me go into ASP.NET Core, and then choose JavaScript file. Okay, so it'll be javascript.js. I am going to call this one, let's see, it's for nested drop-down list, so I'll call it nested DDL, and then the .js for JavaScript. So I'm going to call this, keep the .js extension, nested DDL.js, add it in. So I'm adding it in this particular location so that I can find it. Okay, so I'm pasting this in, the code that exists as the JavaScript code. I'll save this. Okay, and now if I go back to this, there's my other. Okay, so this part I'm for now going to comment out. You know the easy way of commenting out, right? Just select here, this comment out. So this comments out this entire segment. So to prove that we are no longer using this, and instead what do we want to use? The source is going to be the file. So type in src in the script tag, and then it allows you to navigate over, and then the one that we want is nested DDL. Okay, save this, and then if you were to rerun this, so we are referencing the JavaScript program from the file rather than the code added onto your into your CSHTML. Okay, so basically you get the same result by moving it. So what's the benefit of it, of doing this? It's cleaner, right? And then you can reuse this code. One of the things ultimately, again, not only for this course, but let's say you're working in an organization, what adds the most value? What are the things that you can do? One of the simplest things that you can do to add value. Yeah. Clean up and basically create libraries. Think of it in library terms where you can reuse. So what is the benefit of creating a library of code? What's the main benefit? One is reuse, cleaner, and then any code that you have or you're reusing, typically you've tested it multiple times and you know that it's working. So again, it's something to keep. There's one of our students from nearly 12, 13 years ago who joined Mylan when they were setting up the disaster recovery group, and he pretty much set up their entire procedure using this object-oriented approach of designing. So you can apply this whether you're doing it with program design or with any other aspect of systems. As I said, disaster recovery, security, networking, and in terms of it adds significant value. So going back, so that's the concept we are applying here, that we don't want it all cluttered up in the CS/HTML page. And if you do it carefully, we can reuse significant pieces of this code and create our own library. So I'll get this out of here. We don't need this. Okay. So what I'll do is now, instead of having, so let's see if we can use this same code instead of, and we'll modify it slightly so that instead of having drop-down lists, we'll try to create basically a set of checkboxes. So if a user selects multiple checkboxes, we want to have those selected, but also there. So let's say it's one of the advisors is selecting courses across multiple departments. So they're going to select from a drop-down of, let's say, MIS, they select 2 courses. And then when they go back to accounting and select 2 more courses, how many courses should we be showing them? 2 from MIS, 2 from accounting. They've selected 4, right? So how do we keep track of previous selections? What did we do in 353? When we went through the vehicle reservation, when a user made multiple selections over a period of time, we needed a session object, right? So I'll introduce that today. That's again, if you want the user to go over, as I said, multiple options or which you need to keep track of, you need to use that. Okay, so let me break this down and see how we can progress. One is the JavaScript piece. So let's maybe start with the JavaScript piece, which is, this is going to be for selection of courses for a checkbox. So let me call this, so we'll use the JavaScript nested DDL.js and then modify it for, instead of having a nested drop-down list, we are going to have a list of checkboxes. So right-click on JS folder, and we'll add in a new JavaScript file. It's a new item. Just JavaScript, and this is for check. It's a checkbox list, a list of checkboxes. So I'll call this checkbox list.js. Okay, now I'm going to copy the one of the things for efficiency would be if you can actually take out the common elements into a separate function of its own. But for now, since we don't have the time to do that, we are just going to do it by copying and making modifications. So let's see if we understand sufficient to make the modifications. So as far as the drop-down list is concerned, it's going to be the same. Now, what's going to change is instead of it being option values, we have to change it to whatever the data type for checkboxes. So for checkboxes, instead of it being an option value, it's going to be, does anyone know? It's actually, yeah, it's going to be a form of input. Okay, so input, and we are going to have, we have to specify the type. This is what tells the browser whether it's a checkbox or whatever else. So there's, instead of value comes in later, so I'll remove that. Okay, so the type is going to be checkbox, so we want to put that in double quotes. Okay, so what we are doing here is compiling this. So within single quotes is whatever is the string from outside. The double quotes is what's going to exist in the actual code that shows up. You'll have checkbox in double quotes. Okay. So the input type is a checkbox, and then we are going to have to give a name for all of the checkboxes. It's a list of checkboxes. So I'm going to say this is a list of courses. So this is a part of, I'm going to say courses. So, and this is anything that, this is in double quotes here. Okay, so checkbox. So the type is an attribute. The value is checkbox within double quotes. And then the name of each input is courses. So that's going to be in double quotes as well. And then the value that gets passed, that cannot be in double quotes. Why can that not be in double quotes? That's the value that gets passed, and that value keeps changing, right? So that's something that we are getting from that JSON, the method that's giving us the JSON. That's, what's that method called? Get courses. Okay. Okay. So we'll get this dot course ID, and over here, instead of closing with option, we are just going to we are just going to move on to the next input item. So this, I need to make sure this closes. Okay, input type, and this is basically a break. BR stands for the break of the line, and then we go on to the next input item. So this is how we are going to format it for the checkbox. This is the value, and then so what we are saying is that this Yeah, this is the value, and then we are giving the text will show up outside of it, so you'll have a checkbox with the text next to it. So once we have it displayed, you can see, and then each one displays on a separate line. Okay, so is there anything else that we need? So this is pretty much it. So you can see that a lot of this code got repeated. So what you would ideally do is whatever code that repeats, you should put it into its own function, and then call its own function or method, and just have the parts that change, that alone needs to be sent as a parameter or whatever else. Yeah. What's that? Yeah.
In the value, there's double quotes, but not sure where the other double quotes is.
Which one is that?
Right after the slash single quote, double quote, greater than sign, after the stop course ID.
Yeah.
Like where's the other double quote that corresponds with that one?
This one?
Yeah. It's closing.
Yeah, it's closing something. What is it? So, okay, this, okay, right here. So this, so the value is equal to, so this becomes the string, and then, so this is going to show up in that HTML, and then this is the value that comes in from our method, and this, so anything within single quotes is what we are bringing in from outside, and then combining it with the string we are building up. So thank you for pointing that out. So this needs to be there for closing this. I don't know if we need a space here or not. I'm trying to think that one of the things that's, I think, recommended is giving a space here between.
You don't need a space, it'll just be right next to each other.
So it will just get concatenated, yeah. I mean, that's, yeah. Okay, I'll save this and let's try to apply this on our CS/HTML. So let's see. So we have a JavaScript. We need to apply it on our CS/HTML page. Let me call this. So this is for creating checkboxes. So we want it for getting a selected list of courses. So let's see. I'll go to my solution. So we'll put it under. It can go under manual courses or manual department. It's actually, I think, more appropriate under courses. So we are having a drop-down list of departments, and under that we have courses. Since we worked with manual departments, I guess I should just go with manual department. So I'll do that. So manual department, under that, create a view, which I'll call selected list. So I'm going to add, I'm going to go all the way to select new item, and it's going to be a razor view. I'm calling it selected list. This is going to be a selected list of courses. So CS/HTML. Okay. So within this, what I need to do. And again, I'm going to copy some of the code from the previous view that we had worked on, nested DDL. So let's see, what's the part that I don't want to copy the view model. I wanted to address one question that a couple of students had asked regarding the view model before I move on. Dave, you had mentioned you can only use one model with each view, right? So let's say you have two lists to work with. So you have a course list and you have a department list. So is it impossible to display both the lists in a view? What's the answer to that? Is it possible to display two different lists on the same view? And the answer is it is possible. How would you do it? So let's use this as an example. Department course view model. Go into the view model. Let's see. Where is my models? View models. Okay. Department course view model. Okay. So over here, so let's say I wanted a list of, well, this is using select items, but let's assume that I wanted it for the department list. What would I do? Public list department, departments or department list, get set. So this gives me the list of all departments that I can access from the view, right? Because I have the view model. And then if I wanted a list of, let's say, whatever, course offerings. So now when I go into, this is course offering, so when I go into my nested DDL, so over here, what does the model allow me to access? It can, so if I did model dot, now I have access to the department list, the course offerings for that. So if you need multiple lists in the same view, this is how you do it, to create a view model that accesses multiple of them. Okay, so that's one point I wanted to sort of clarify or make clear that you could do. Okay, so what do I want to do now from the nested DDL? So I need to take some of this and then change. So I'm going to, okay, I'll just take this code from here and then make changes. Okay, so I'll pretty much copy this entire code and put it into the new selected list. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way on top, and instead of well, I could use a view model, but instead of the view model, I'm going to just, this gives me the departments. I still have to get, so okay, I'll just go with, so I want a list of courses, so I could either use IEnumerable or I could just say list of course. Either one will work. So what I want to do later on is to display a list of courses. I'll change the view data to, this is going to be selected courses. And instead of nested DDL, this is selected courses. Okay, form action, again, I'm going to call it, I think I called it selected list. So I'll call this form action selected list. selected list is going to be the first one. So I'll send it to something which I'm going to call selected list result. So there are going to be two methods, one called selected list, the other called selected list result. And the other thing that I'm doing here is instead of having so why is this complaining here? How many of you know this? I'm now I've taken away the view model which had department ID. So instead of saying select ASP4, I can just say name of this is department ID, and the ASP items I'll say come from a view bag or viewbag.departments. And the rest of it I will keep as is. Okay, why do we have this ID? This is for the JavaScript to be able to identify this. Okay, and the second thing that I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to try to have a label which says select course. Or select courses, multiple of them instead of single. And then I'm going to try to change this to where I can. I'm not going to have a select here. This entire thing is going to get built up. So what I'm going to do here is to say, so I don't have a select list. This entire thing, remove it all the way where it says, I'm just going to keep the ID alone because I need this for the JavaScript. So now the question is, how do we have an ID without having some kind of an element? And this is where this is one of the things I wish we had spent a little more time is with CSS and HTML elements. The div tag can be used as an identifier within a document. So if you don't have something like a select or a text box or anything else, you can use the div itself. But each time you have a div open, you also have to close it. So I'll just, in this case, close this here. Okay. And then what else do I want? I need the submit. Okay. Okay, so if I save this and there is something else I need to change, what's that something else I need to change? The source is going to be instead of nested DDL. Actually, if you want to navigate over, you can do that. So I'll do that here. Source equals JS and checkbox list. Okay, I'll save this, and I think I already have any code that as long as I didn't make any, I don't think I have this running. As long as I didn't make any change to a controller. So if I try to run this, can I view this? Can I see this view? I need to have a controller method, right? Without that, how will I see this view? So I need to go into, since I'm setting this up in manual department, I'll go into manual department. By the way, some of you are continuing to call controllers in your project using manual. Do you remember why we prefixed with manual? we auto-generated through scaffolding, so we wanted to distinguish. At this point, I'm asking you to create everything manually, so there's really no need for you to prefix. Okay, so let's go into this manual department, and we have to create two methods. So, so I'll create this called just above public, right here, public iAction result. I called it selected list. This is going to be a HTTP get. Okay, so I want the list of departments here to be sent over. So I'm going to create, so I'm just conveniently going to just select this, but I'm not using a view model. Okay, so I'm going to get this from the database. And where am I going to send this? What's the way I send it to the view? Using what? If I'm not using a view model, I use a view data, and within that, I'll say departments. That's the view data. Okay, so I have my select list coming from the database, and then I say return view, and the view should have, what do I send the view? Should I send anything? When do I send something to the view? If I'm sending some data, something in the form of the model, I need to send it through as a parameter. The other case where I have to have a parameter is if the name of the controller method varies from the name of what? The view. If they don't match, I have to give. So in this case, what I'm saying is selected list is the name of the method which needs to display the selected list view here. What about selected list result? Is that relevant now? It's only when we get to the post. Okay, so let me run this. Okay, this is manual department selected list. Since I don't have a link, I'm going to use this. Okay, I have my drop-down list, and then when I select something, okay, so do you see the checkboxes showing up? So if I were to select this, and then instead of search, it should be select or something to that effect. Okay, so if I did this, it should send it over. Obviously, there's nothing to handle this. If I clicked on this, what happens? It should give an error because we don't have a select result. Okay. Okay. So what we need to do next is go into this controller and create this HTTP post. I'll say public. What do I want to do here? I want to set up, this is going to have quite a lot of code in trying, as we'll build it up gradually. Let's see, I have about 15 minutes. Okay, so I'll call this selected list result, and I'll again say iAction result. In this case, we are actually not having a model, so I'll show you how we access the data that the user selects. And let's say, what do we want to do? I want to return a view. So return the name of the view. Now it's going to be different because it's the same view that we are going to go back to, but the name of the method is different. So when you are returning the view, you have to specify the name of the view. You understand that, right? Whenever the method name varies from the view name. So what's the name of the view? Okay, selected list. Okay, and in this case, we are also what we'll do is to display the list of courses, and I'll show you how we'll try to display it. Okay, so what we'll do is in this view, we'll have to sort of format it, otherwise it'll get quite ugly. Well, for now, we could do it as its own div. What I want to do is to have the side by side. So I have the selected. These are the list of courses to select. And what would you like to do? Typically, as a user, I'd like to see the selected courses next to it, right? So you might want to create 2 columns of it. So you can actually use these div tags to create multiple columns. Has anyone experimented with it? No? Okay, so let's try to do it. I'm doing this in a my design sense is very, very poor. So the issue is it might look ugly, but it will at least show you how to go about this process. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to put up a div. I want to set up a div for displaying the course list, and I want to set up a div that's like a wrapper. So I'm going to say set up a div. So this is I'll just call this. I'm not sure if I'm going to be using this ID, but just to identify this. Okay, so I put this here. Actually, so I have my so my selection actually select courses shows up, and then I want this input button to actually be a part of that. So I'm going to remove it from here and put it right below here. So this div here is the list of courses and the select button. I'll remove this from here. Okay. And then over here inside of the wrapper, I need to do some formatting. So I want a second div which is going to hold the course list. Okay, so I'll say div. I need to do a few things here. So this div is coming within this div. Okay, so just to make it clear, so this div is going to hold. I'll put a label so that it's clear what this is doing. Label selected courses. Okay, so what we are looking at here is 2 columns. On the left side, the courses to be selected, the right side, the courses that have been selected. And the courses that have been selected are going to come in a table. So it's going to be I'll just say table, and you can format the table like how we were doing earlier, like using the class, I guess, class table, what did we say, table border, table, I'll just leave it as is and keep a simple table. Okay, so within the table, what do we need if we are displaying courses? Table, by now this should be very familiar, right? So TH, TR. If this is not familiar, then that's a problem. TH, course, we want a course number, and we want TH course name. Okay, and then you have the T body. So how do we set up the T body? For the list of courses, so it's going to be for each course in the model that we have is basically the list of courses. So what do we have inside of each? TR, TD at each course dot course number Okay, so what are we trying to do? This right column is the selected courses. Now we have to do some kind of formatting of the div so that it just doesn't pile up one on top of the other. So for that, and this is where I said I'm just going to try to get this to work. So the first subdiv, so the top div is called the wrapper. Inside of it, you have two divs. So we are going to say this one here, the first div for selecting courses. I'll say float. The style is you're floating it to the left-hand corner of the wrapper. Okay. And so style equals within double quotes, and then I'm going to say it's going to occupy 50% of the overall real estate. So for that, floating left, and I'll say width equals to, or colon, it's not equals, it's colon 50%. So that takes up 50%. And what else do I need to say with this? Okay, so this is okay. That's fine. So I have my div for finding the course target. So this div, the second div, what do you think I'm going to say? Style, float. I want it to float to the right of this page, and then I want it to take up the remaining 50%. Okay, so this just, we have about, I guess, about 5 minutes remaining. So I want to, let's see what's it saying here. Return selected list. So what I want to return here, what I want to return is not just the selected list alone, but I also want a course list, right? Now, just for this, since I just want to show you what this course list looks like, how it displays. For now, I'm going to just make up a course list, which is basically I'll just bring in all the courses from the database. So I'll just say database dot courses dot to list. And I'll just send over this course list. Obviously, this is not the selected course list, but the entire purpose of this is to see how it displays. So do you understand what you're trying to do? Okay, let's try to run this now. Okay, what's it saying? Each course selected, saying that the object is not being referenced. That's strange. Why would this not be referenced? Pardon? In the tag here? Okay. Between the method and the view?
Yeah, that's what was happening.
Okay. Well, this view is supposed to be selected list. Okay. Yes, yeah. But we are getting this course list of courses. Okay, so we are generating this list of, okay, the place where it failed is there are two lists, right? One is this view data for the departments. So I need to get this view data into the result, this result view as well. So I'm going into, so when does this, so this view, so first I'm calling selected list view, and then I'm going to go into selected list result, which also needs view data from departments. But initially I'm going into the course list is being displayed using the selected list, right? So if I want to display from selected list, I need to send, and just for it to display, I'm going to take this list here. I'll make a change later on, but for now, I'm going to put this list here and send the list to the, okay. Otherwise, it's going to complain because it will say, just as it did, there's no list to display. Okay, so I'm going to run this now, and I should see the two views, the two lists of courses. Okay, so this is what you should be seeing. On the left is the list of courses, right is the selected courses. Obviously, as I said, this is not the selected courses, but just a list of all courses. Do you see it or no? Yes? Okay. Now, one of the things I want to clarify, the concept here, well, yeah, I guess there are many more pieces I have to fit together, so I'll do that next class. But the pieces or the concepts that I want you to understand now, why did we need to send a course list through the view? Why did we earlier? Do you understand the difference between using a view data versus sending a course list? Yes, no. Whenever we have view data, we need to have a if you have a view data, you use a view bag. Okay. But if you need to get the list in the model, then you need to send it as a parameter in the to the view. If you don't do it, so this is obviously not what we want when the user selects. So when the user selects one of these and clicks search or submit, it comes in here. And when it comes in here, what do we want to do? Retrieve those values and then use that to generate the course list that's selected. So that's one piece. The second is, if they keep selecting multiple of them over a period of time, we need to accumulate them using a session. So those are the two things we'll discuss next class. And then we will discuss the unit testing. And I'll try to bring in the Morris charts. If one of you explores it, let me know. So I'll use it for the class discussion. I'll stop now. If you give me the sheet. Okay, the groups that didn't submit anything, you have to update me. Otherwise, I'm going to assume you didn't do anything. Yeah.
But that's next week, still on here. So, me and Water need to 7:30. I'm going to do an update before that.
Yeah, before that you have to send me. Otherwise, I won't meet you.
So I need to touch in with Rachel on what she's creating.
Well,
function's working right now.
Okay, but you need to update me. Otherwise, that's part of keeping you on track and keeping you
email.
Yes.
What we're doing? Okay.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Group 8, if you want to meet me, you have to send it because, send me an email. The other is also on how did your interview go?
It was just a fence thing. It went really well. I mean,
well, part of it is, my expectation is you keep checking your email. So that's why I thought.
I've been checking my private account.
Yeah. Okay. What do you use for your